Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Name of this one, the Russo and Anthony Show, right? Yep, Russo and Anthony Show. Joined by Anthony LaPanta, who's what are you doing? Stats.com.
Yeah,
doing his pregame
getting
prep for the.
Got to prep for a big show.
Yeah, Tampa Bay Lightning on Thursday night. Thanks for everybody coming out to Tin Shed. Jim Souhan, as you can see, is not here tonight, so Anthony LaPanta was very kind to come down here to Savage to co-host the show with me, the Russo Souhan Show, here on the Talk North Network. The next live show here at Tin Shed and Savage is next Tuesday night, January 21st, 7 p.m. Jim Souhan should be back. So definitely please come out and join us. This show is proudly sponsored by Grey Duck Vodka. That's greyduckspirits.com. Twill in the Edina Galleria. That's twillmn.com. Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. State Farm's Tony Hoagland at championinsurance.com. And the Tin Shed here in Savage at tinshedmn.com. You'll see my just handsome mug on the front page of that website. Again, everybody, thanks for coming out, especially in the aftermath of a just horrific defeat last night. I took a 6 a.m. flight home back from Pittsburgh. Kept the phone on because you're half expecting that there's going to be some news this morning. And I was dozing, in and out, phone's beeping every now and then I look over. And I lean over there around 8:30, and I see fired, and I have a heart attack thinking, uh-oh, I better get down to the XL Energy Center. And it's actually Gerard Gallant, the Vegas Golden Knights coach, Anthony.
Yeah, it was surprising. And Pete DeBoer was one of the guys that I thought, there would be clamoring for him in the offseason, perhaps, with some of the teams that right now are in interim situations, and he gets snatched up immediately by Vegas. This is a club that's got a chance to win, and a chance to win this year. To make a change at this point seemed surprising to me, and I know they haven't been playing as well lately as they had hoped, but man, it's not. They're in a great spot in the playoff race, and Gerard Gallant had done such a tremendous job there their first couple of seasons when they had overachieved. That was surprising, major surprise.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that they were leading the Pacific Division as of a week and a half ago to the point that he was supposed to coach the All-Star game next weekend. And now he is not. Now I assume that Rick Tocchet will replace him. This is the coach of the year last year. So now, I mean, just this league is unbelievable. The 2016 Stanley Cup finalist, the 2017 Stanley Cup finalist, so runners-up, and the 2018 Stanley Cup runner-up, their coaches all fired in the last 37 days. That is absolutely crazy.
Isn't it funny how it goes, though, too? Because it wasn't just 2 years ago that there wasn't a single coaching change during the season. And now all of a sudden this year we're going to end up, it's crazy. I mean, we're talking about a quarter of the league has made changes. And as you mentioned, some of the elite teams and elite coaches, guys with tremendous track records and huge resumes of success. I mean, you just would have never seen it coming that it was going to happen this season, and we're only just past the halfway point of the year, so who knows? There might be more ahead.
And not only does Vegas go to the Stanley Cup Final in their inaugural season, but last year they got the shaft essentially in Game 6 in San Jose, where, again, they had a pretty much a fraudulent major. Of course, they didn't have to give up 4 goals on the major, but they wound up losing that game, but they looked like they were going to advance to the next round. So who knows if they would have gone on their run. And we've talked all along this year, and that, I think, is disappointment with Kelly McCrimmon, the new GM of the Vegas Golden Knights, is that I think that he felt like I don't want a team like, say, Minnesota or another team to snatch up Pete DeBoer. Let's get him now. And I think the second they move to ninth in the Western Conference, a team that Anthony and I have all along said is probably, along with Colorado, who's also in the tank right now, and St. Louis is the three best teams in the Western Conference. The second they fell out of the playoff race, I think he wasn't going to be patient any longer.
Well, I think it's interesting, and we've talked about it a lot, about the timing of coaching changes, and I've always felt like if the guy that you want, your long-term guy, isn't available, then there's really no reason to make a change during the season, in my opinion. I mean, you might have something where you're just trying to change the culture, change the chemistry or something, get a little quick fix. But long-term, if the guy that you want is out there, you might as well make the change right now and let's go. And that obviously was the case with Vegas. And Pete DeBoer is a highly respected coach. The Wild have a couple of players who have played for him throughout their time. Ryan Carter, one of them, Zach Parise, another. And every time I've talked to them about him, they rave about him as a guy and as a attention to detail type coach. So obviously it'll be a change for Vegas, and you never know exactly how fast teams can absorb a new system and a new philosophy. But there's a ton of talent on that Vegas team, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them in it at the end in the Western Conference, if not in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, and if you look at all their analytics, like, it's funny. I mean, but 2 weeks ago when I really studied up on the Wild's analytics, you could almost project that they were going to regress here, that their numbers weren't sustainable. Where if you look at Vegas, it's absolutely the complete opposite. They are just shooting at a ridiculously low level for the talent base that they have on that team, with guys like Carlson, Riley Smith, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, Jonathan Marchessault, Nate Schmidt, all those guys. And you just feel like at some point here they're going to break through again and score offensively. For some reason that top line just hasn't been going for a lot of the years, and you just feel like, again, with their goaltending, with Marc-Andre Fleury and net, and the defense that they have, that's just a matter of time before top 10.
Depends on what you consider their top line. I consider the Pacioretty, Stone line their top line. They've been going, and they've been great.
That's true.
The Marchessault line has been a disappointment for sure, but I lean more on the other guy, the veteran guys.
And it'll be interesting now where Gerard Gallant lines up. I think a lot of people are looking at him as a shoe-in now to be the next Detroit Red Wings coach. He and Steve Yzerman are buddies. I know Gerard well, really well, and I just have a feeling he's going to want to take a little step back here. I guarantee that he was absolutely blindsided today by the news in Ottawa when, however they told him.
As blindsided as the last time he was up there?
Yeah, I know. And Ottawa's not an easy place to get a cab either.
No.
Because they were probably out at that Brook Street by Canada, and ask Mark Parrish. Mark Parrish once, one favorite Mark Parrish story, when he was a rookie for the Florida Panthers, he overslept. His roommate was Brett Hedican. Brett Hedican had a doctor's appointment that morning and turned off the alarm clock. So Mark says he overslept, missed the team bus to practice, took a cab out to Canada, thought he was actually going to beat the team bus. He shows up at the loading dock, and security is like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Going to practice." And he goes, "The Panthers aren't practicing here today." So the Panthers were actually practicing at the Ottawa Civic Center where the 67s play, which is like 5 minutes from the hotel. And he took a 30-minute cab ride out to Canada thinking that practice was there. So then he had to hail another cab, go to practice in Ottawa, and he shows up at the rink. I'll never forget it because I was down by the locker room. He shows up at the rink when Terry Murray was getting off the ice.
He used to cover the Panthers?
Yeah. It was a wonderful time in my life. This show, again, would be absolutely nothing without its sponsors. So thanks to Grey Duck Vodka, one of our premier sponsors, newest sponsors, Chad Greenway's company. Thanks for joining on.
When we asked you to get the duck out, wow, did you respond? Grey Duck Vodka is now in over 1,500 locations and expanding every day. This is Chad Greenway, and I just want to say thank you for making Grey Duck Minnesota's vodka. With the wonderful ingredients from Minnesota farmers, Grey Duck is gluten-free and has won 3 gold medals for taste. For all upcoming events and a list of locations carrying Grey Duck, head to greyduckspirits.com.
Please drink responsibly. Grey Duck Spirits, LLC, Lakeville, Minnesota.
Get the duck out.
And we're back here on the Russo Suhan Show. Anthony LaPanta from Fox Sports North joining in. But last night was fun, huh?
Oh, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
Rough one right from the start.
First of all, you're demoted to radio. And then, it's just, it's funny because I always see this. I vividly actually remember the Bob Murray snafu last year in Anaheim. And I have a feeling that Bruce probably didn't mind that one. But last night, Bruce, for the first time in his career, he says, made a huge mistake. And look, I mean, I don't think that Greg Patterin was the difference between the Wild winning and losing last night. But
Certainly didn't help.
No, and that to me is the biggest thing. I mean, there's a couple of coincidences or ironies going into the game. Is that one, the day before, we were both at practice, and Bruce Boudreau was bemoaning the fact that the top line, and it's funny because I came to practice literally to ask him that question that day, because the stall line after the first period was averaging like 62 seconds a shift. And then all of a sudden, Bruce volunteers to us that he talked to the stall line about their shift lengths. And so he's kind of saying that everybody needs to play lower minutes and things like this. And then he puts them in a position going in the game in Pittsburgh with Crosby coming back to now overextend the shift lengths of all his defensemen in the game because he just mistakenly put Greg Patterin as a healthy scratch rather than Ryan Donato.
Yeah, it was tough. And as we're getting started, and you look over, there's a little bit of a delay, and you see the referees over there with
and right away
a card in their hand, and this is not going to be good. So, and then Greg Patterin gets up and walks away, and it was fun. That was my first radio broadcast, and I think it was 21 years. I think 1999 was the last time I had done a hockey game on the radio. So that was interesting, and it was a little bit different. You walk into the booth, and all there is a little box about the size of your phone sitting here, and no monitors, no telestrators, but a huge booth, and a guy sitting over on the side, his name was Doran Kleck or something like that, and he looks like he's asleep. I said, we're going to do a show right now? I mean, does anybody else know? And so that was kind of interesting, and working with Tom Reed for the first time was fun. Tom and I had talked during the day. So he and I have been in the same arena for 8 years of Wild hockey. Mm-hmm. So, we're talking over 600 games for sure. And back years ago, we used to do high school hockey tournaments at the same time, but never together. There were a couple of years where I was doing the afternoon games, he was doing the night games, or a couple of years where he was doing TV, I was doing radio. So I said, we've probably been in the same arena for about 750 hockey games, but had never done anything together,
right.
Even like an interview with each other. So it was the first time we had ever worked together. That was entertaining. And
then fun. Tom today announced his retirement. Yeah. Not related by any stretch.
No. There was some concern because the game was last night. Monday, the Wild practiced, and this is the practice to which you earlier referred. And I walk into so our flight is Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. I walk into practice first, and a couple of people stop me and, yeah, well, it sounds like Tom might make it. And I said, Tom might make it? What are we talking about? I said, well, he didn't do the game Sunday night. And I didn't know that because he's doing radio, I'm doing TV. So I had no idea he didn't do the game. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? They said, well, Tom was sick. He didn't do the game last night. He might not make it. And so then a little while later, and the team travel guy, Andrew Height, comes over. He says, yeah, we've been thinking about potential replacements all day. And it's like, wow, this is... So then I get to the plane, but then they said, but he texted and said he's good. He's gonna make it. So I get to the plane, and on our charters we have a few different crews of flight attendants, and some of them we travel with us a lot, so you get to know them a little bit. And I walked on the plane, and as soon as I get on, a couple of them turned to me and they said, well, Tom was so worried about working with you and dreading it so much that he's decided, screw it, I'm not coming. And I said, no. They told me he's coming. They said, nope, we just got word. He's off the manifest. He's not flying with us. And so now I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to do my first radio show in 20 years without a color guy.
I would have done it. And it would have been the worst thing for Wild in history if I had done color for that game. I would have. I remember. Not to interrupt with story, but when they lost 7-2 there 5 years ago, and the Nicholas Backstrom's essentially his last game before Dubnyk, I did a first intermission. You go back in the archives with Tom Reed. A first intermission interview with Tom Reed where I lost my mind on the goaltending. I'm like, this team's going nowhere. I mean, I absolutely lost my mind.
It was bad that night, too. Remember, the Wild dominated the first period. They're all over them, and then, like, the first two shots they put away both went in. And the next day, traded for Evan Dubnyk.
Yeah, and but that was I'm pretty sure that they did not ask me to do another radio interview the rest of the season because the Wild were so livid at what I was saying on the radio about a guy that I really respect in Backy. That was also the game that Ryan Suter got suspended.
He did, because then I had lunch with him in Buffalo the next day because he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And just coincidentally, so he walked into the hotel lobby, and I was sitting there, and he came over. We sat and had lunch because he said, "Well, now what do you guys do the rest of the day?" Because I got like 3 hours to kill before the bus goes back to the rink.
Yeah. So you were saying.
So anyway, our flights, if they leave at 1 o'clock, I have a tendency to get there not a whole lot before 1 o'clock.
Shocking.
And Tom Reed usually is probably there, I'd say, before noon for a 1 o'clock flight. And he and Kevin Gorg are the notorious, and Bob Kurtz if he's traveling. Those guys get to the plane so early, like they beat the flight crew half the time. And so for this flight, as it turned out, I didn't really have anything to do, so I got there at about noon. I was there like an hour ahead of time, maybe 45 minutes. But Tom wasn't there, so I legitimately was concerned. Our team president gets on the plane, and I said, well, hey, maybe you could be the color guy tomorrow. And, I mean, we don't have an analyst. Tom got on the plane like about 15 minutes before we were leaving, which I swear is an hour later than he's ever been there before. Uh-huh. And he gets on the plane, and I turned and I said, Tom, I really thought you had just given up and you were bailing out on me. And he turned, and I don't even know what he said because he had no voice. And I said, well, this could be problematic. But then he recovered and he was fine. It was just laryngitis, so he wasn't sick. He didn't feel badly or anything.
It's not like you need your voice to do radio color.
Right. Yeah. No, so it was fun though. It was kind of, I mean, even though the game was terrible, it was fun to do a radio broadcast, and I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but we'll see.
Our longest running sponsor, our most loyal sponsor, Twill and the Edina Galleria. Scott Dayton's just really been loyal to this show right from the very beginning. I love it because it's right next to the Starbucks, so I can kill two birds with one stone.
Jim usually doesn't like to shop for clothes. I don't like it when he shops for clothes either, because he used to buy stuff I'd want to throw out. That's why I'm so glad he's found Twill in the Edina Galleria. He likes shopping there because of the comfortable environment and the friendly staff. He finds clothes that actually fit him properly and are high-quality brands that will look great for years, whether he's golfing or working. Our favorites so far are Peter Millar, Johnny O, and Barber. We spend our money at Twill because we love the clothes and we love the no-pressure shopping. Drop by Twill in the Edina Galleria for the best shopping experience and best clothes you'll find in the Twin Cities.
So Kevin Fallness tweets in, and by the way, if you have a live question, we have a mic up here right by Brandon, our producer. Feel free, just come on up. You don't have to be prompted by me at all. If you have questions, tired of Anthony and I speaking, shooting the breeze, just come on up and interrupt us. But Kevin Fallness writes in, now that we're officially coworkers, do Sunday night dinner invites get mailed out or typically hand-delivered? Yeah, luckily, he doesn't have either of our phone numbers, so he's not on the group text.
No, and I did reply to him. I said, "Yeah, just go out and wait by the mailbox, see if something pops up."
That to me, it's like when I do intermission interviews on KFAN. That is the hardest part of the interviews, that you got Fallness in your ear. That had to be very difficult.
Yeah, and I didn't really. I mean, and truth be told, I didn't really have much overlap with him because most of that he does with Tom Reed, and so I just hear him basically throw it back to the rink, and I give Kevin a lot of grief. He's not a bad guy, really. He hasn't ever been invited to dinner though, and he won't be. But he isn't a bad guy to see at the rink every once in a while, and he's been there for a long time, and I know he's had a chance to do a couple radio broadcasts, so we've had a chance to spend some time with him on the road, and we'll leave it at that with Kevin.
Yeah, I do like the way that he trolls you. Whenever he mentions you on Twitter, he has to put a picture of the tree that broke your Weber grill.
He actually has a couple of good pictures that he uses as ammunition. He's got one with the tree on the grill that he likes to share every time he's not invited to dinner. He has another one that I don't know where it came from, but I was sitting in the press box and I had like my head down in my hands. I don't really know, I don't recall what it was or anything, and I don't know how he got the picture, but he has that because he shares that every once in a while too. Anytime that
I have a couple of pictures I can send him.
Yeah. Remember, actually, there is the non-disclosure agreement is that works between you and I too.
Let's talk a little bit about the Wild. I mean, we joked about the game, but I mean, it really was just absolutely miserable. It's typical of almost every game they ever play in that building. They get routed every single time. They've been outscored 31-14 in their last 6 losses there. 6 of the last 7 games they've lost in that building. I just honestly, it's really amazing in the last week and a half how they've destroyed their season here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough right now. I mean, this stretch, 1-5-1, and only 14 goals scored in the 7, and it looks right now they're legit lacking of energy. There's not much going right now, and it's crazy because for about a 6 or 7 week span, they were as good as any team in the NHL. And the attitude and the mood around the room was great. It was really interesting on the trip that we took to Florida when Louis was with us, how many times he referred to that, because he doesn't get out on the road with this team ever. And he said, it was eye-opening to me just how much fun they had together, how much life there was, the laughing, the camaraderie and all that. And it just has been totally different here over the last week and a half. And it took them 6 or 7 weeks to dig themselves out of the 1-6 start to get back into the top 8 in the West. And now, after this stretch of 1-5-1, they're right back basically where they started. And it's going to be a challenge because it takes a lot of energy to do that night in, night out. And you're pushing and you're grinding and you're battling. And now all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, a lot of that gets erased. So they're going to have to figure it out. And it isn't going to be easy but it's going to take another stretch like that to get them back in it. And right now you got a few teams in the West that are starting to gain some traction and play a little bit better than they were during that earlier run. So there's not much margin for error left for this club, and
Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, all playing really well right now.
Yeah, you got to get it going right now.
Yep, absolutely. It's amazing. Colorado, the way they've taken a turn for the worse here lately. I think they lost 9 of the last 12 or something like that. The Wild actually were the team that pretty much put them on a little bit of a tailspin here.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
They'll be fine.
They will be, and they're too talented not to be. And
although their goaltending.
It's an issue.
Yeah.
But every team in the West has issues. That's what we've talked about so many times. This is a year where when you look at all the teams, the supposed elite, and every one of them's got some significant question. And that's why it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility that a team that just finds a way in could be a potential factor in the playoffs. But right now, it's going to take a significant change in the way things are going right now for this club, I think, to string something like that together. And it starts with it's got to start with goaltending, because if you're gonna put together a stretch of 7 or 8 weeks of great hockey, you have to be in the upper tier of the league in terms of your goaltending. And that's the only way you can sustain it, because there's going to be nights where you don't score. There's going to be nights where you get outshot or outplayed, and you've got to be able to steal some of those. And so far this year, when you really think back, I mean, there haven't been very many games. It hasn't always been the fault of the goaltending, but there haven't been a lot of games where the goaltender stole a game for them yet at this point in the season. And you're going to need some of those as they move forward if they're going to be able to sustain something long enough to be a factor.
I've got to think Stalock probably starts against the Lightning. I mean, he was great his last time out in Calgary. As Anthony just mentioned, the Wild, that was one night in Calgary where he could have stolen them the game. That's how well that he played that night.
He was great.
Yeah, he was outstanding. One of my issues with this team, and I've said it all the time, I was talking to Shooting the Breeze recently with Mike Modano about this, is because I look at his 99 Dallas team as kind of the template of deep centers and how you win in today's NHL and how you need to be strong up the middle. And I think that is one of the downfalls of the Minnesota Wild this year, is that, look, Eric Staal had a good first half of the season after a very slow start, so he really had a good 6.5, 7 weeks. He's absolutely looks like he's run out of energy here. I'm sorry, you can't have a second-line center in Mikko Koivu, who has got 2 goals all year. Joel Eriksson Ek, their third-line center, has 3 goals. Victor Rask, who's mostly their fourth-line center, has how many? 4? Trying to see here, 4 goals. So their second, third line centers and fourth line center have combined for 9 goals this season. That you cannot win in the NHL like that.
Well, it's hard. I mean, if you had a bunch of wings with 30 goals, you could. I mean, you have to get scoring from somewhere, but it doesn't have to come from centers. I mean, bottom line is the team, they're not scoring enough, period. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, we talked about this stretch, the 7 weeks where they were the best team in the league. They were number 1 in the league in goal scoring during that time, and these same guys were their centers. So, I mean, you can. They were
actually technically Eck and
that was the
were
tail.
out
It was the very tail end of it.
Yep.
But for most of that run, you had your lineup intact, and those were your guys. And the Eck line was your shutdown line. Koivu was playing with Parisi and Fiala for long stretches there. We talked about it so many times. The beauty of that run was that their lineup was the same every night. The line combinations were the same, and so they did it and they scored. So it can be done. I mean, you don't have to get. I mean, it's like the baseball guys who say, "Well, your first baseman has to hit home runs." Well, he doesn't have to if your shortstop's hitting a bunch of home runs.
Yeah.
But you have to get scoring from somewhere, and right now they're getting it from nowhere. And I mentioned the 14 goals in 7 games. I mean, that's not enough. You can't win with that.
Isn't it amazing the way that things change so quickly in today's NHL? Like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, people are asking me on my mailbag if they're going to re-sign Koivu and extend Bruce Boudreau. And now everybody's like, when are they getting rid of Koivu and when are they firing Bruce? And, you know, the Mikko thing is interesting to me because...
I wonder who throws gas on that fire.
Yeah, I don't know. Not me. But the Mikko thing is interesting. Like he has not played well since he's been back. And last night, to me, was as bad as I've seen him look. He couldn't get up and down the ice. And if you're not going to score, you certainly can't be tripping guys and turning pucks over and back-checking to the wrong guy. And, you know, last night, a perfect example, like that second goal, even though it's Carson Soucy that looks terrible because he was absolutely, I don't know what he was doing, not gliding. He was gliding back from red line in, and his guy, Brian Russ, scores the goal when he's 10 feet away when all he had to do is be skating. But that turnover happens because Mikko, as usual, refuses to shoot in a scoring position. He circles around the faceoff. He's in a prime scoring shot, decides not to shoot like he always decides not to shoot. And then what does he do? He puts Soucy in an awful position and sends him a 2-foot pass for a turnover.
Well, it's because he knows he only has 2 goals. He doesn't want to screw that up. He's trying to pick up assists. I think the interesting thing, though, that is, and I didn't think Mikko was very good last night, but most of this run where he hasn't been scoring, that hasn't been. I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Like, it's very rare that he's been a minus player during that run.
Yeah, that line doesn't get scored on a lot.
They don't, and so you need more from a legit second line center. But I don't think that last night would change my opinion in that this guy still has tremendous value to this team moving beyond this year. And I don't know. I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, he is late in his career. He is coming off ACL surgery. I mean, maybe there's a chance that he isn't at 100% physically, had the groin injury this year. And there's a chance maybe that, you know, as this season progresses, that it isn't going to be the greatest finish that he's had. We'll wait to see. But this All-Star break probably coming at a good time for he and a few other guys inside that room. And we'll see how they come out to finish the second half. But I still believe that he's got tremendous value to this club. Maybe it's in a role that's not in the top 6 on a night-in, night-out basis. But, you know, even at his supposed worst, he's such a responsible player, and he allows Parisi and Fiala to play the game the way they've been playing. And frankly, I mean, look at how good those guys have been for long stretches with him as their center. Even though he's not piling up the points, they've been scoring, and he's kept their line as an even or plus line most nights.
Yep. Another one is another one of our great sponsors is Fixology Repair. Been with us for a long, long time. John Hedges has been absolutely awesome. He's somebody that you can take anything to. I've brought some Breitlings there. I've brought my mother's bracelets there to get fixed, iPads, phones, everything. He has 2 locations, one in St. Paul, one in the Mall of America.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on-site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
If you have any questions, I have a lot of Twitter questions as well, but feel free to come on up here. We already got somebody coming on up. This will be
Never
fun.
seen this guy before.
No. Let me see your watch. Oh, that's a nice watch. There's a chance I sold it to him. Actually, I didn't sell it to you. I sold it to somebody you know.
I have some Twitter questions too. This one's from Barbara from Atlanta. She's wondering.
Well, I'm not. We can't hear it unless you can do the voice.
No, don't do the voice.
Her question is who is St. Louis going to play in the Winter Classic?
That's funny. Yeah, they're going to host the Winter Classic here, but it's going to be St. Louis versus the more appetizing team. Is that what you're getting at? I got it.
And then I got another question. Paul, who was formerly from St. Paul. He said Fiala +2, Rass +7, Donato +1.
All right.
Can you expand
You
on
got to
that?
have some way you can spin that into negative and how poorly they've been playing.
No,
can't
they're
you?
playing. They're playing. He was from Mendota Heights. Come back to earth here recently, haven't they? Look, some of those moves are working out. As I've said all along, I mean, his big downfall, if he was fired, if Paul Fenton was just fired just for the trades, he would have been fired after last season. He was fired in late July because of everything else I wrote in that story that I wrote early August. It was more about him as a person and the way he dealt with people and the morale inside the organization that really was his undoing here.
Well, and the truth be told is that when you look back at those deals at the time they were made, the problem was that just about everybody else, the assumption around the league when you talk to other GMs or assistant GMs is that when guys were trading the known commodity for the maybe someday, they always get a second piece. And even if Fiala ends up being a really good player, at the time of that trade, nobody trades Granlund straight up for Fiala. They get Fiala plus something else for being willing to take a shot. And, they got that in the Coyle trade where they got an extra piece. And then, the Niederreiter for Rask trade was kind of the same thing. I mean, even though Rask is not necessarily an upcoming prospect, but very few guys would have made that trade straight up with Niederreiter's history of being able to score goals. Now, he has dried up a little bit this year, but I don't think that was the reason why the Wild made the trade. So I just think in most cases the trades, it was just that there wasn't a second piece coming back in each of those swaps.
Right. Anything else?
Yeah, it was just a question on goaltending. Kemper has got a 2.1 goal average this year. Khudobin's playing pretty good for Dallas. Is that the hardest position to judge players?
I think it is because it's so much about mental toughness, and frankly, I mean I thought Kemper's undoing here in Minnesota is physically. He's got all the tools, but really where he fell apart here was just where he would get rattled in games and all of a sudden melt down late in games, and it became his MO here. Dom,
which is now his MO playing against the Wild.
Yeah, now it's only
he's like an 86% save percentage against the Wild and like 93.5% against everybody else.
Like basically the Wild this year saw the real Darcy Kemper or the Darcy Kemper they had, but he's apparently been unbelievable against everybody else, and that's why it's like I've always said, I gotta see it to believe it, and so far I haven't seen it in front of me. Now obviously he's out because he got hurt coincidentally against Minnesota in December. Dom at The Athletic wrote a really good piece today where he basically was cautioning. He was looking at a lot of the top highest paid goaltenders in the NHL and pointing about, one, how poorly they've been this year, but two, just showing how it is so hard for any goaltender, no matter how good you are, to be consistent on an everyday basis. And he's got numbers to back it up. And basically what he's saying is a cautionary tale that you should never sign a goaltender to a long-term expensive deal, that you should almost continually have guys on short contracts, and then you're constantly trying to respond to get the next guy that's going to help you win. And we're sort of seeing that in Pittsburgh right now. It's like Fleury, they eventually get rid of him for Matt Murray, who helps lead him to 2 cups. Now Matt Murray is basically a goalie on the outside in. We're seeing this Tristan Jerry, that's 11-0-1 in their last 12. They've got DeSmith down in the minors. Now everybody's wondering, when's Matt Murray going to get traded? And so you just kind of see that it's just a tough position to really forecast what they're going to be like for long term.
Yeah, I think that's true. I talked to a couple scouts about that. We were coincidentally, because we were talking about this upcoming draft and how deep it is, and we just got off on a tangent about goaltending. And after talking to them, I was just thinking about it myself, and one of the things that I think might be interesting with it is it's the one position on the ice where you don't have the puck. So you're reacting 100% to what else happens in front of you. And that pace is impossible to simulate at any other point. So you can't really ever watch a guy as a goaltender when he's playing against a pace that's slower than he will see in the NHL. And I wonder if that has something to do with it, where it's just that little extra, the extra velocity on shot, the extra puck movement at a quicker pace that might be a discerning factor to just that little margin between a guy who's good enough to be a star in the NHL, a guy who's basically an AHL goaltender. And maybe because you can't simulate that anywhere other than in the NHL, it's impossible to project just whether or not a guy is able to make that last step.
And we did see that. I thought at the end of Kakkonen's time here, he really started to struggle, and we started to see warts. And I think that's why it was a perfect time to send him back to the minors when Dubnyk got back into the lineup, because now he can go back, see, kind of have an eye-opening experience of everything that is the difference, the appreciable difference between Europe to the AHL to now a huge step to the NHL, and go back and continue to work and then come up and go back and because it's such a difficult position. I think it's just important to be patient with these guys and not destroy them, because not everybody could be Matt Murray and just hop in there and be anointed because a guy like Fleury gets hurt. Next thing you know, you're celebrating a Stanley Cup on the ice. Bert?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, if the Wild play in NBC tomorrow night like they played last night, it may be the Blues being the home team in the Winter Classic. When NBC
is tomorrow an NBC game?
It is.
Oh.
So I had too much hockey day prep to get done this week.
Nice.
We had to give a couple games away.
So I had a question talking about goaltending. Do you see Guerin probably putting something into play next year, kind of like what the Capitals are doing this year, where Holtby's the lame duck and you got Samsonov playing?
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall, especially now that Backstrom re-signed, that Holtby is going to be leaving as a free agent. There's some really good potential goalies out there. I mean, Talbot, isn't Markstrom a free agent potentially?
I don't know. I know Talbot is.
Yeah, I know Talbot is too. Obviously, Holtby. It is something that maybe, especially because real money-wise, even though cap-wise, Doobie's got to afford something next year. Money-wise, he makes a lot less. Maybe it's something that the Wild have to consider doing. The problem is that you're probably not getting a guy like Holtby on a short-term deal. So if you think that Kakkonen or Robson or Hunter Jones is eventually the future, you don't want to overpay in terms of term to a lot of these UFA guys. But look, the Wild have to improve goaltending. It's not just, a lot of times, look, I feel bad for these guys a lot of times, but the reality is that, and it's not fair, but when the guys in front of you are not confident in the goaltending behind you, it affects the overall game. And you're seeing that. I mean, last night, even though nobody was really explicitly blaming the goaltender last night, because it was, there's on a lot of those goals, there's nothing Doobie could have done. But when guys are constantly saying every chance they had went in, that to me is partially a shot at the goaltenders.
Well, go back to that game to which you referred earlier in Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. It was after that I won't share which player it was, but I had two players tell me the same thing, that they were talking about how bad the goaltending was, and they said, we feel like we're playing good hockey, but right now we're just hoping to get to the first TV timeout 0-0. I mean, that's 6 minutes into every game, and they're just hoping they get to that point and not be trailing. So I think it's that kind of...
He's talking about the Backstrom game in 2015.
The Backstrom game, right. And so when you've got a team that has that little confidence, you can't help but think that now guys are getting away from structure because they're feeling like, I can't even give away one shot because it's got a good chance to go in.
And the other thing, Anthony, is their penalty kill's got to be a lot better. And that's not just all on the goaltender. I know the old cliche that goaltender's got to be your best penalty killer, but their penalty killing is so garbage. It's just...
It's been bad.
It's like flaccid. It doesn't. There's no aggressiveness to it. Like I always, I started watching hockey down in Florida, like watching those Roger Nielsen teams, and then covering the Doug McClain teams and the Keenan. I mean, the thing you always learn is you had to outwork the power play, and just watch how stationary the Wild's penalty kill has been lately. And you cannot win with a penalty kill at 65%. And Bruce was talking today about how if you look at the last they've chased 3 games in a row. They've been fine in every game. And Pittsburgh had like no chances yesterday until Dumba takes a dumb penalty. And then what happens? Immediately, they give up a goal. And now they're chasing again. And then the penalty killers are like, we suck. The goalie feels like crap. The offense is scared to take. I mean, it just their special teams has been so dismal for so long that it just was bound that eventually the rails would come off here.
Yeah, and what's strange, though, is that they've been a good penalty-killing team over the last few years with largely the same guys. And even earlier this year, they were a good penalty-killing team. And it seemed to get derailed when they lost Eriksson Ek and Koivu. And that made sense because they were 2 key parts of the penalty kill. But then even when those guys got back, they haven't been able to get back to that. And when you're giving up power play goals the way they are right now, it sure makes it tough because this isn't even though they had the scoring numbers that we talked about earlier, long term, this team isn't going to win games by outscoring people and overcoming a power play goal against every night. And right now they're averaging about a power play goal and a half each night, and that's almost impossible to overcome.
Yeah. One of our another longest sponsors, most loyal, is Tony Hoagland, State Farm out in Champlin, ChamplinInsurance.com. Tony, both Jim and myself get our car insurance and our homeowners insurance from Tony.
Every team knows that the 2-point play can be a winning move. That's why State Farm agent Tony Hoagland and his team are here to help you go for 2 by combining your home and auto insurance. It's a great call that saves you time and money. So go for the win and score savings by combining your home and auto. It's just another way we're here to help life go right. Call State Farm agent Tony Hoagland at 763-421-4900 or online at ChamplinInsurance.com.
You may have misunderstood what I was talking about with the Holtby.
I don't even know what you asked. I just decided to talk about something else.
Next year, like they sent Copley down back to Hershey and brought up Samsonoff to play. Samsonoff. And do you think next year the Wild would do something like send Stalock to Iowa, bring up Kapanen to do, or Robson, and do something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it really does depend. I mean, it's I'll be honest. I think I'd mentioned a podcast or 2 ago that I was working on this awesome, and it's going to be a really good story on Stalock. I met with him at the Lake Elmo Inn, and one of his great lines in this story is that he's on an everyday tryout every single day because he knows that he could just be in Iowa one day or traded in next day. I'm not going to run it. Originally, it was supposed to run Friday. I just don't feel like now is the time to write a fluff piece on their backup goaltender in a lot of ways because of him. I just don't even want to see the comments like, right now, I don't think Wild fans are in the mood. So we're going to hold that a little bit. Now things could change, but when I talked to Guerin about that, I don't think that he feels that he would want, unless Kakkonen or Robson were getting the majority of the starts, that he would want his backup just being a guy that slotted in every 5th game or just back-to-backs and only up here to practice. I think that he feels like there's more value that they can be attained in Iowa. Look, we have to see. As I just said a week and a half ago, we were deciding if Boudreau's extension was going to be 3 or 4 years. In 2 weeks we might be like, yeah, let's get Kakkonen up here now and play him. I mean, a lot can change in a very short order in the NHL. We've learned that.
Samsonov is playing like every 3rd game now,
yeah.
So they're getting him in there. And I also wanted to get your guys' opinion on what Backstrom did, where he negotiated his own deal. How rare is that? I know Drew Dougherty did that 1 year.
Yeah, he did it 1 year. Backstrom it was a $49 million contract. He probably saved himself $2.5 million in agent fees. Somebody had to help him because his signing bonuses are right in line. I mean, obviously, Washington was working with him on it, but their signing bonuses are right in line of what he can maximum get. His no trade clauses are fascinating. I'm impressed that he did it. A lot of GMs don't like negotiating with players because it puts a strain on there, but obviously Brian McClellan, who I know really well because he basically lives here in Minnesota, I think that he has an immense amount of respect for Nick Backstrom and was able to do it. And I think there's a lot of players right now that look at that contract and how good of a job Nick Backstrom did for himself and being like, wait a minute, why am I paying 4.5% to this guy? So,
well, when you're at that point in your career, it's different too, right? Yep. I mean, the younger guys are even less proven's a wrong word, but I mean, this guy, everybody on the roster knows that he's the guy inside their room, that he's the heart and soul of their team. I think his situation is rare. And I don't know that there's a lot of other players out there that are confident enough in their own role where they say, I think I can sit down and negotiate this because I know they're going to give me a square deal.
Counselor Ken Cutler asks, how long does Bruce Boudreau last? Thought he might be gone after last night's fiasco, both lineup card and pathetic performance, but instead it's Gallant. It's funny, I almost put a line in my story, but I decided not to because I didn't want to box myself in. But I said, if we wake up today and Bruce Boudreau survives the day, he's probably lasting the entire season. But the other thing is, the reason why I didn't want to box myself in is because, you could technically get rid of him in the bye. If all of a sudden, they might have, right now, I could tell you from doing some digging today, they are not saying that they're going to get rid of him. I mean, they want to give him at least for the rest of the year here. But the people that I talked to about this couched it because there might just come a point, what if they don't win again before the bye week? What if they go, this losing streak goes 10, 12 games? I mean, there just comes a point where you just got to maybe pull a plug. So while the impression I get inside the organization is that at a minimum they want to give him until his contract's up, and then they can reserve the right to renew him or not renew him. Anything can change here in the next little bit. I think deep down, Bill Guerin looks at this team and says, look, they're not good enough. Bill Guerin's a smart hockey man. We see everything. He sees everything that we see and probably sees a lot more than we see. And I think he knows that this team isn't a contender. He definitely doesn't want to build a 500 team here. He wants to build an elite team. And if all of a sudden the byproduct of them playing like crap right now is them again going and having great lottery odds to go get a top draft pick for basically the first time in franchise history, I don't think he wants to do anything to affect that. And maybe firing the coach all of a sudden gets you 7-8 more points that you wouldn't have gotten and lessens those draft lottery odds. So to me, the only way it would make sense is if deep down Bill Guerin's saying, you know what, that guy is available right now and I don't want to risk losing him. I think that's what's happened with Vegas. I think that Kelly McCrimmon probably and George McPhee, who's still technically the president of the team, probably said, you know what, earlier this year, when we were thinking about extending Girard, things have happened now that we just aren't comfortable with that, and we really like that Pete DeBoer. I mean, Vegas and San Jose have played in the last 2 postseasons. I think that they just said, we don't want to give another team the chance to go get the guy that we want to get, potentially as a free agent, so to speak, in the offseason. So unless Billy's like, you know what, when Gerard Gallant was my assistant coach on the Islanders for 2 straight years, there's a little inside knowledge. I really, really loved him and thought he was brilliant, and he's the guy I want running this team. That could be what does Bruce in. Or maybe deep down, he's looking at him and says, you know what, I really didn't like playing for Gerard. I think he's an idiot. I don't want him. So then that also doesn't add a little urgency to this.
I agree with only the last part of your statement. That I think that
really, I was talking for 5 minutes.
I know I lost interest there for a little.
Stuff.
I blacked out for a couple minutes there in the middle, but
now you know how I feel
right.
during our Europe trip when I got to listen to him with like a bottle of wine, just talking and talking.
Well, at least you have a bottle of wine. I got a glass of water. I think I agree with the principle that if the right guy's out there, if the guy that you think is your future guy is out there, that then there's a reason to make the move now, and if not, then there's no reason to make a change right now during the season. There's almost no chance that the hesitation to make a move now is for fear that a new coach might come in and get me more points. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that that's a factor in his mind in any way, shape, or form. But the other part, that to go way back, I think where you started, if I can remember right, was
I think it is a factor.
If this team were to lose, say, the remaining 4 games here before the break, and all of a sudden you're 1-9-1 or something, I go back to when Mike Yeo was coaching in his last few games, and I remember him one night just coming out saying, look, I understand how this works. You can't lose every game and keep your job. I mean, there is a point where if you can't get this team out of it, that's going to be the move that gets made. But I just don't believe they're looking at it saying, well, we better not make a change because what if we make a change and it gets us an extra 6 points in the standings?
Well,
I don't think that's a factor.
I really do. I think that they are looking at this as this is a chance to maybe get a lottery pick. I mean, I know that Billy looks at it that way.
Well, it's a chance that I don't think that they're not going to make a trade because they want to get a lottery pick. But you're not looking at this saying, boy, I hope we get beat tonight because I want a better pick in the lottery.
But what I'm saying. again, if all of a sudden a new coach,
some
is gonna
people out
give this
here
team
might, but there's no way the GM and the coach are thinking.
If you're looking at this team and saying they are not a true Stanley Cup contender, or there's no way that they're going to make the playoffs,
did you
or they're
watch
going
Bill
to, or they're
walk
going to
down
let
the
me
hallway
speak,
last night?
dude.
Did you watch him walk down the hallway last night?
Yeah.
Yes. Does that look like a guy who was glad they lost because they're
I
going to
am
get a
not
better
saying
lottery
that you're
pick?
glad. I'm
He
not
looked
saying
like he was
that
about to put his fist through a wall.
I'm not saying that he was glad they lost. My point is that if the coach that you want to eventually have out is not available right now, that you do what Detroit's doing. You sort of let him go down with the ship. You don't do anything to change anything, and you reassess in the summertime. To me, there's no point in doing it. You just kind of let him ride it out.
Than having a fear that a new coach gets you a couple more points.
I'm just saying, like, if you think that this team is not a Stanley Cup contender, then what is the point of making a move unless it's absolutely killing your business? So sorry for ripping Mikko. I know,
how's it going, guys?
But it's a great looking jersey that you're wearing.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just curious. I know you had mentioned that Carolina did have strong interest in Brodin.
Yep.
Any chance we get Martin HS out of that? He's a younger guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they would want more than prospects. I mean, they have prospects, they have picks, they have players on the ice. I've talked to a lot of sources that are affiliate that have strong awareness of what's going on in Carolina and who they'd be willing to part with, and I'm not sure that he'd be one of them. But they really want to get mobility on that left side in Carolina. There's a lot of teams now that want that. Vegas is another one. Toronto is another one. I think the writing's on the wall with Brodin. I just think that I've heard that there's a ton of interest with Brodin right now with the Minnesota Wild.
He's been playing great.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, he's been as good as any defenseman. Now Toronto just lost Morgan Riley to an injury.
I think it's dangerous trading Brodin.
I'm not saying I would trade him.
Yeah.
I'm saying that it doesn't surprise me as huge value. I would not, unless it was you were getting the Brinks truck backing up with a load coming back the other way, because this guy is playing the best hockey he's played with the Wild right now, and that's saying something because he's been a very good defenseman throughout his career. But I think right now this guy is it's got to be really something coming back the other way.
And I think the people that just say, all right, trade Brodin because Soucy has made him expendable, I think that's probably being a little too fast on the Soucy train. Brodin's a pretty special defender, the way that his mobility and the way that he thinks the game and things like that. It's still shocking to me with the amount of mobility and skill that he has, that he doesn't get more points than he does, but he's somebody that's really interesting. Let me ask you this. I mean, I don't think they would do it, but would you shop Dumba around? It's hard because also his stock's probably never been lower.
Yeah, that actually is one of the major reasons. For me personally, I would be more apt to trade him than Jonas Brodin.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. I mean,
I've had more scouts come up to me.
Right now is a tough time to trade him. I mean, although there's got to be some teams out there that would look and say, I remember what he looked like at the beginning of last year before he was hurt, where he looked like he was showing you what his upside was, but. I mean, at this point, it would have to probably exceed what the trade market would bring, in my opinion, but we'll find out.
Yeah. I just think that the thing with Dumba, I've had more scouts come up to me like, what is going on with Dumba than any player on the team. Last night it was what's going on with Greenway. He's another one that's been really disappointing lately. Let's see. Does Guerin make a trade soon? If Zucker to the Pens, what do we get back? I mean, that's another one where I think that the one thing that Billy Guerin is proud of when he looks at that Penguins team is how many of those young players are playing really well for them. He's got an intimate knowledge of that Wilkes-Barre team and those young guys that were so good last night, especially on their bottom six. And so I think those are players that he would look at. I think he'd want draft picks and prospects as well.
Isn't it really amazing when the Pittsburgh team, when you look at what they did, they were 11th in the league when Crosby got hurt.
Yeah.
And then without Crosby, and for the last few games without Gensel, they went from 11th in the league to 4th in the league. Best record in the NHL over that stretch. I mean, that tells you a little bit about, number one, how some of the young players have stepped in, but maybe even more so just the structure with which they play. I mean, they play so hard, they're so disciplined that they just don't give much up. Now they've had good goaltending over the stretch too, but wow, to be able to withstand those kind of injuries and post the best record in the NHL during the stretch really says something.
We're doing this, by the way, at Tin Shed here. Tin Shed has really been gracious to host our live shows. Brian, the owner of Tin Shed, has tickets here that you could put in for Raffle 4. We'll have the drawing next week. You do have to be here because if we pull your name out of there and you're not here, you can't get the tickets right away. Next Tuesday, January 21st, 7 p.m. is our next live show here at Tin Shed. Great food, great drinks, hockey, games, everything like that. Here's somebody that asks, when does Mayhew get a look and Greenway get sent down? I said,
boy, I don't know.
I threw that in Billy's ear yesterday. I'm like, what is, like, would you ever send Greenway down? And he goes, I know you would. He doesn't require waivers to get down. And I guess the thing that I'm just shocked at, and this is now, multiple managements, is just, why would you take a prospect like this that clearly has tools and just give him an NHL job? I mean, he's not spent time in Iowa other than a little stint.
Yeah, and it's the league's different now. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this roster that if you looked at them and asked that same question, you'd probably come up with the same answer. But all of them essentially just stayed in the NHL until they were past that number of where they were waiver free. I don't know. I mean, it opened his eyes a little bit perhaps last year when they sent him down there for 2 games and then brought him back up.
He had a hat trick.
Yeah, I mean, which was great, but when he came back up, he was good for a couple games. He's just been so inconsistent, and I'm not sure what it's going to take to get him past that, and it might just be experience. It's hard to know. Every guy's a little bit different. Like, which guy goes down to Iowa and benefits, and which guy goes down there and comes back the exact same player. Do you really think that right now his inconsistency is because he feels entitled? I'm not sure. If you don't think that, then there's no reason to send him down there. If you do, then maybe it triggers something and shakes him loose and scares him a little that this isn't a given that he's going to be in the NHL. But I don't know that that's the case.
Yeah. A couple more minutes in the show. If you have live questions for Anthony or myself, please come up to the mic and ask. Somebody just asked me on Twitter if I'm going to roadie for the Dave Simonette tour in the next couple months. Could back down in May. Dave Simonette, who the lead singer of Trample Like Turtles, who donates the music on this podcast. Victory is the opening song. Winners is the second. He has a solo album coming out here in a couple weeks. I listened to the first single that they put out, that he put out on Spotify. It's absolutely awesome. So I might have to hit him up for the ability to travel around with him. I'm sure he'll absolutely love it.
Get him to come to Europe with us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. By the way, if you could tell, there's times where Anthony comes close to giving me an aneurysm. And when we spend actually about 9-10 days together in Europe, that's usually on a daily basis or at least a nightly basis. So we do have an awesome trip this year. DefineDestinations.com is where you can get more information about it. We're going to Budapest, Prague, and Vienna, July 9th to the 18th. The packages that they have there, they have a land only and then airfare included package. Your meals, your transportation, your excursions, your gratuities, most of your gratuities, everything.
It'll be a great trip. They always are.
DefineDestinations.com. Some people in here that have come on our trips, so it's absolutely awesome. Anybody have any more questions? No? It's been a glum time for the Minnesota Wild, huh? It's been awesome. Tell a story, Anthony. Whew. Have you disappointed Margot lately?
Regularly. We're just
Margot, why don't you come up and grab the mic?
Yeah. No, I've been on very good behavior lately. Yeah,
we're gonna have overtime with Margot. She's gonna just grab the mic when we're not being recorded, and she's gonna go to town.
Yeah. Well, the beauty of this is we're in the midst, and I'm sure Margot's thrilled. We're in the midst of 56 out of 59 nights staying at home. So so right now, she is so happy.
So like tomorrow, like are you even come to the game? Like are you going to watch that?
I'm going to go to the game. We got hockey day coming up on Saturday, so a ton of prep for me. I'm excited about it this year because I get to do one of the high school games because it's local. So a lot of prep for getting ready. I've got the Blaine and Blake game, the second game on Saturday. So we've got there's a ton of stuff going on for Hockey Day. A lot of, the feature stories being put together, and even just the little details. Like we've got a story on Staylock for that day, and it's, hey, we need some examples of plays where, I know I asked you the other day if you remembered which game it was where he skated out and flipped the puck into the wild bench. And, you're trying to sort through, and our production crew, which they do an unbelievable job for these things, but, they're back there, hey, I've got 1,000 plays tagged in the video system as Staylock save. Do you remember which one it was where he did this? And I don't know. It was November, and it was at home. That's about all I can remember. So a lot of time like scrolling through some old clips to try to help them find things that support their stories, and then the research that I've got to do for the game on Saturday. So tomorrow I'll be in the office most of the day getting stuff for that done, and then I'll go over and watch the game. I will shoot over there for the game, but I probably won't go to skate. And I'm excited about the Blaine and Blake game. Rob McClanahan's coaching at Blake now this year, so I've had some fun conversations with him over the last week or so as we prepare for it, and interesting to hear him talk about this is, he's a head boys coach for the first time, and he's talking about how he tries to take some of the things that Herb Brooks had for them with the Olympic team and during their time with the Gophers into these games. So for all the stories you hear about how much these guys hated Herb when they were playing for him, it was interesting to hear him say, this is the way Herbie did it, so this is how I'm doing it. That'll be kind of interesting. We're going to talk more about that on Saturday, and looking forward to it. It's supposed to be snowy outside, which kind of always adds to the visual for the event at Parade Stadium. It'll be fun. Big day for us.
Down at, I think, the St. Paul Saints Stadium tomorrow, they're having a Herb Brooks exhibit, a Miracle on Ice exhibit, actually put up there.
Our 40-year anniversary of that, isn't that something?
It is. It's nuts, and that's what it's about. It's going to be going on, I think, around 1 o'clock, and that's down at CHS Field. Thanks to all our sponsors again. Twill in the Edina Galleria, Grey Duck Vodka, Fixology Repair, State Farm's Tony Hoagland, and again, Tin Shed and Savage. Next live show here Tuesday night, January 21st, 7 p.m. Jim Suhan will be back. Thanks, Anthony, for coming down.
Yep, anytime.
Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody.
Pretty little city built on a hillside. Music in the bars and fire in the sky. We went to the beach and it was covered in ice. And I used to call it home. So much coming out, there's nothing going in. I know that you feel like you're never gonna win. Oh, but the world won't forgive